Welcome back to another episode of Human Factors Cast. We're pre-recording this, but it's set for release during the holidays in 2021. I'm your host, Nick Roome. I'm joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hello and welcome.
Hello and welcome, everybody. We got a great show for you tonight. This is a little holiday tradition, an end-of-the-year tradition for us, Barry, where we kind of look back at the year and literally read off every single news story that didn't make the show. So this is really exciting, and it'll be a good fun. I think the way that we just tackle it, we just jump right into it, and maybe we go back and forth. One person reads one person reads another one. We don't have to do the whole thing, maybe just the headline. And if we want to jump into it, we give a little bit more context about it, and we can go for a little bit more discussion. So I'll start us off here. This is in January here. The first story we had was there should be a Nobel Prize for vaccine logistics.
Legit. Yeah, they absolutely should be, because the people getting them vaccines out that's just something else, and it's ongoing as well with boosters and everything else. Absolutely.
Yeah, agree. What's up next?
The next one is Waymo will no longer use the term self-driving to describe its tech.
That's interesting, because we actually just talked about self-driving or autonomous vehicles a couple of weeks back, and how they are made for more human-friendly drivers and for analyzing inside the vehicle. Two separate episodes that are really great. Speaking of surface transportation, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration determines that sudden acceleration complaints in Tesla vehicles were due to driver error. So there you go.
Aren't they always? The next one is every deleted Parler post, many with users' location data, has been archived.
Whoops. Yeah, that whole Parler thing. That was a whole interesting data breach. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
We have Starlink satellite internet service has been approved in the UK, and people are already receiving their beta kits.
See, this is in January. I still didn't realize that. I want one. Yes, please.
Yeah, Starlink's cool.
The Cadillac has shown off a single-seater vertical takeoff and landing drone concept. That's exciting.
Yes, it is. I love the VTOL stuff, especially when it comes to transporting individuals from one place to another. And then there was also the best gadgets of CES 2021 and the weirdest ones too. There was a recap on that one. Had everything from sort of I'm looking at the blurb here, but there was a lot of really cool stuff there. And CES is one of our sort of geeky, or at least mine. It's one of my geeky getaway ideas. I don't know.
Have you been?
I've not been in person, but I cover it pretty extensively in my own free time. So.
I'd love to go. I think it'd be. We had the gadget show in the UK, and we went to that one as on trade, and that was quite cool. Anyway.
Yeah. Did I read the last one? You're up, right?
Oh, so it's me. So Panasonic's AR hood could be the future of automotive safety. So provide eye tracking, air navigation, and 3D imaging radar for traffic safety, which is again linking back to some of the stuff we've been talking about AI and safety. So go and listen back to some of them episodes.
I have lost my place, but I think we're at Microsoft patents chatbot technology to revive dead loved ones. This is very similar to a Black Mirror episode.
That's just, and actually there's a real drive in some of the Middle Eastern countries, Far East countries, around this type of thing, around using digital humans to revive some of your dead loved ones. That's just, yeah, slightly weird. Google mobile search redesign focuses on results and not frills. So make sure that you can get cutting back on the distractions.
I completely forgot that there was a redesign to search on mobile earlier this year, but I guess that did happen in January. Yeah, and then our last one here for January is the Virgin Hyperloop released a concept video of the future we want to become reality. And this was I remember this video. It was pretty cool. And it was basically just a concept showing off its vision of the future for moving around a city using the Hyperloop technology. Pretty cool stuff. What happened in February?
So in February, we had 5 ways Robin Hood's rushed UX changes exacerbated the GameStop crisis.
Yes,
I've got no idea what that was about.
Yeah, you have no idea what the GameStop thing was? Oh,
No.
man. So there was a short squeeze. I guess it's still going on. I'm not sure. There's GameStop, the U.S. stock market had a lot of stuff going on with it this year, and GameStop was at the center of it.
Yes, I remember now.
So there were some issues with Robinhood's UX stuff that happened and made it even harder for users to pull their money out. So then we have Epfl engineers create a chip that detects stress levels via sweat. So, on its own, I think the chip itself is cool tech, but I don't know how much human factors application it has outside of wearables and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're playing with that sort of stuff at the moment. It's quite cool. Floating holographic buttons may make smart toilets even better.
You don't have to. You don't have to touch the controls, man. You get
That's all great. Yeah,
your poopy fingers on it. It's the end of the year, folks. What do you expect? Don't get your poopy fingers on any. This is how you know the show has gone off the rails, and we're only in February. All right, let's get out to Google rolls out a slew of updates to improve virtual classrooms. So we had Frank on the show for this one, and I think he talked about it from his partner's an educator, and so it was kind of cool to see that Google Classroom stuff.
Yeah, and then when buyer beware, massive experiment shows why ticket sellers hit you with last second fees. So it's all funny enough, it's all about profit.
Yeah, that's I'm shocked Pikachu face over here.
Yeah,
I think no surprise there. Scientists have found a way to communicate with dreaming people. I think we actually talked about this one on the show. We tried to not include those here because we talked about them, but I seem to recall this was a pretty cool one.
Cool. Maybe I should use that. No, I can't say I use that with my wife. She might listen to this. Chunks of United Airlines plane rained down on Colorado suburb following engine trouble. Nice, proper engine trouble.
Yeah. Do you remember that? I remember seeing the imagery and people were comparing it to like Donnie Darko or something. And it's just like,
what wasn't there some footage of it through the?
Yeah, it was on fire. I think.
Yeah.
It's oof. Yikes. Let's see here. Where are we at? Samsung's leaked concept video may show its vision for AR glasses. So I think the interesting thing about this one was that they were so slim. They were very close to the face, so you didn't have this big bulky like block in front of your eyes. I think that's what it was.
Might need to do some research after this just to go and check. I'm a big fan of AR glasses. Speaking of in a similar vein, Sony is working on a new PlayStation VR headset for the PS5. Yeah, I think it needs to do a lot of work on that level to sort of catch up with some of the other stuff out on the market.
Well, in terms of tech, maybe, because I think the PlayStation VR headset is actually very well built and comfortably accessibility. But yeah, the tech behind it, the screens, the clunky wires, the vision recognition system, all that needs work. All right, that brings us into March. This is Gatorade's wearable patch tells you how much Gatorade to drink, and
of course it does. Oh, well done, Gatorade. Cornea eyes in on fighting wildfires using better data. Help if you could actually say it. So basically giving them more drive on how to confront wildfires.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that we did right before episode 200. So go check that out. I remember 200's a kind of marker for some of these because there's like everything before episode 200 and everything after 200, and we have like a separate way of categorizing some of these news stories even after 200. So it'll be easier for us to kind of talk about. The next one here, Microsoft debuts its AR and VR meetings platform, Mesh. So this is,
very good.
I guess this was kind of their answer to Facebook's Meta stuff before Meta was a thing.
Yeah. And that'll be a subject for the future, no doubt. A job rotation scheduling model for blue-collar employees, hand vibration levels in manufacturing firms. Okay.
Super
I see.
interesting.
So, yeah, so they're actually monitoring the monitoring it to enable them to do the scheduling. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got safety culture transformation, the impact of training on explicit and implicit safety attitudes. So training is a huge thing, and obviously attitudes towards it are going to be impacting the ability to train.
Yeah. Then we've got, according to Waymo, fully autonomous vehicles mean the driver still has to interact with the system sometimes. We're not at level 6 automation yet.
All right. And then the next one here is let's see here. Instagram's algorithm pushes users towards COVID-19 misinformation. Oh yeah. That's a thing that happened, right?
It still does on well, not just Instagram. It's still people still like pushing the anti-COVID-19 stuff. Amazon Echo and Google Home could monitor your heartbeat without even touching you.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't necessarily surprise me.
This was through sound waves. It was a kind of a novel way of doing it, right? Like it picks up on the absence in echolocation and then will monitor it. It's some voodoo, I think. And then you have you have scientists make an AI that reads your mind so it can generate portraits you'll find attractive.
Right. Okay. The smart cities tech is great, but don't forget the people. That is an article right after my own heart. I've written actually similar stuff and presented on similar stuff before. When was this? In March? Yeah, so I was there first. But yeah, I think it is actually something that I think is really good, and actually something I was berating somebody about just a couple of days ago.
Excellent. Well, I'd be happy to get your thoughts on that. We did talk about that on the show, so. All right, we got border control systems are gearing up for facial analysis tech. What could go wrong? The answer is everything.
It certainly is. Deep learning enables real-time 3D holograms on a smartphone. Cool, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that one. That one was neat. And then we have preliminary observations on efforts and factors affecting aviation industry's recovery. So this was a report by the FAA, I think, that looked at kind of getting the aviation industry back after COVID.
Okay, we kind of need COVID to end to make sure that comes to fruition, I guess.
Yeah.
A cool case study on pedestrian traffic near an elementary school in San Jose.
Yep, and then we have let's see here. There was a I think we skipped over one. There was a House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, which we had here in the States. We had this big infrastructure bill passed, which is going to be massive for surface transportation. It's really exciting to see all the projects that are going to be built and established because of that bill. So it's just awesome.
Cool. Okay. Interesting application of opt-in versus opt-out.
Yeah, that's always an interesting question.
Yeah, it's well, we were talking about it in one of the previous episodes around whether people signing off on T's and C's and cookies and all that sort of stuff, and should we be doing, do you ask people to do it or not do it anyway?
Yeah. Climate change. Default effect sees massive green energy switch. So this is basically making green energy the default choice. Consumers stick with it even though it's costly.
Yes, because fundamentally people are quite lazy and they will go with most go with the default option regardless. Cool article about predicting VR motion sickness. So predicting motion sickness severity from virtual reality. Yeah, that's quite an interesting thing. The whole sim sickness element. You can get it quite severely.
Yeah, it can be bad. Mm-hmm. We have robots using eye contact to draw out reluctant participants in groups. This is kind of creepy, but at the same time, it works, right? Because eye contact and sort of begs for engagement, and so you're having robots do it.
Yeah, so the more realistic that these are going to get, that's only going to get better stroke worse depending on which way you look at it. So this radar skeleton uses AI to walk for you. So it's basically set of AI-powered exoskeleton legs that can basically walk autonomously. Sounds quite cool.
We have BMW wanting to make you feel things with its new AI assistant. So this is things like natural language processing, gesture control, machine learning, connecting in emotional ways.
So California passes a new regulation banning dark patterns under landmark privacy law, which that's quite an interesting progression.
Yeah, I forgot all about that one. There was a, let's see here, low power chip for augmented reality contact lenses. So it kind of helped with the vision impaired.
Where are we at? So user perceptions of the risks of electric, shared, and autonomous automated vehicles remain largely unexplored. That's probably quite true.
Yeah. You have people affected by COVID-19 are being nicer to machines. That was an interesting study. Kind of helped close the gap between people and technology.
Oh, that's no. I was affected by COVID-19. I don't know whether I'm any nicer to machines. Study shows that longer brain activity after writing on paper than on tablet or smartphone. Unique, complex information analog methods likely gives brain more details to trigger memory.
No duh. News.
I can see that.
Then we have kids and parents both have paid mental health toll with virtual learning. Go figure.
Didn't see that one coming. Continuous and intermittent artificial gravity is a countermeasure to the cognitive effects of 60 days of head down tilt bed rest.
Cool. I don't know what else to say about that.
Dog 12, yeah.
There was an opinion article here on DUI laws adapting to self-driving cars. Interesting discussion for another time.
Inside Facebook Reality Labs, risk-based interaction for the next computing platform.
This one was cool. We talked about this one on the show. Go back and listen to that one. I think it was episode 201. This was post 200 though.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's see here. Researchers developed an AI backpack system to guide vision impaired wearers.
Cool. Well done.
Yep.
Toyota releases an app to help parents install child seats. I didn't read. I didn't quite read ahead. Didn't realize it said seats. I thought he was going to say install children.
You ever install those seats? It's really kind of tricky unless you have a guide.
Or a professional to do it.
Or a professional. You have this one here. With drones and other autonomous vehicles, safety must come first.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Today, cyber attacks foreshadow wars to come. Absolutely true. A lot more to happen on the cyber warfare front, I fancy.
Yeah. This smart bandage could help hasten healing and might even detect COVID. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Loneliness is a public health problem. This low-tech intervention can help. That's very true, actually. You know, the whole people being alone, we try and encourage people to be in their own homes as long as possible without going into hospital. But many people are on their own.
Yeah, I think the low-tech intervention was just giving them a phone call. Experimental hearing implant succeeds in registering brain waves. So this is looking at cochlear implant measuring brain waves for the first time.
That's cool, but scary.
Yeah.
Remote-friendly student project presentations enable creativity and risk-taking. Okay.
All right. Depression affects visual perception. Oh, so the more depressed you are, your vision is impaired. Yeah.
Taking music to the next level with this wearable smart device for musicians. The Soundbrenner Pulse is a smartwatch for musicians that has a wearable metronome. Cool.
There is a new tool out there that strips manipulative dark patterns from these mobile apps. So that's kind of cool, and they're doing great work over there. And that brings us to April. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to break down April and the rest of the year.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
All right, and we're back. So let's just jump right into April here. I think I went last, so you read this first one, Barry. We'll just go back and forth.
So Microsoft has lands £22 billion to put custom HoloLens headsets on US soldiers.
All right, and we have the digital humans, the next step in human-computer interaction? Question mark? I don't know. I don't remember that one.
We've been evaluating the safety of edge lane roads.
Oh, that's from our friends over at the Traffic Research Board. And then it's time to regulate AI that interprets human emotions.
Coronavirus or COVID-19 effects on New Jersey supply chains.
Lots of COVID story. Cobots act like puppies to better communicate with humans.
That sounds good, doesn't it? Novid tracking app scans your social circle for COVID-19 risk.
Lots of those tracking apps this year. Expanding access to active transportation. Not sure what that was about, but sounds interesting.
Sounds fun. Determining maintenance schedules of bridges. Who doesn't like a good bridge?
Oh, especially relevant with the infrastructure bill here in the States. Let's see here. We have brain signals can drive exoskeleton parts way better with therapy. And I think that one actually made it to one of our shows.
10 big takeaways on the state of the internet in 2021, which I don't have the 10 big takeaways, but they were a big thing.
Those are always fun to look at. Let's see here. Technology acceptance scale. It's Bayesian psychometrics assessed in a factor analysis via Markov chain Monte Carlo models. Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah. A pandemic playbook for transport agencies. A lot of this pandemic stuff is going to be very popular, isn't it?
Yeah. And sneak peek to May. We've actually started organizing these in May according to categories. So these might actually fit a little bit more thematically when we get there. The next one here, evaluation of an automatic individual computer-based driver education and training program.
Or Elon Musk's Neuralink scientists are not the first to get a monkey to control a computer with its mind.
That's right. That was a big story earlier this year, but they weren't the first ones to do it. Pilot program to offer public transit credits for workers in Boston.
How to make autonomous cars trustworthy and free from cybersecurity threats.
Relevant to a couple weeks ago. Let's see here. Are AI algorithms playing fairly with age, gender, and skin color? The answer is no.
On many, many, many different levels.
Yeah.
Statistical prediction of the future impairs episodic encoding of the present.
All right.
Okay.
Next up, our brain typically overlooks this brilliant problem-solving strategy. People often limit their creativity by continually adding new features to design rather than removing existing ones.
It's true that humans rely more on algorithms than social influence as a task becomes more difficult.
I have lost my place. You want to read the next one?
So varying demands for cognitive control reveals shared neural processes supporting semantic and episodic memory retrieval.
And then there was an article assessing pedestrian crossing facilities. Man, so many of these are relevant to a couple weeks ago. That's
the influence of algorithms on political and dating decisions. I like how they've grouped them two together.
That one's interesting because it was everyone's very segmented. They wouldn't anyway. Go ahead. This next one here, augmented reality in retail and its impact on sales. Interesting little story there about how seeing it before you buy it is huge for some of those decisions that you make.
Mental health, physical symptoms, and biomarkers of stress during prolonged exposure to Antarctica's extreme environment. Just talking about extreme environments on the most recent episode.
Two episodes ago. Yeah. Let's see here. The effects of environmental, operational, and organizational factors on the usage of and satisfaction with electronic medical records.
And then back to highways with the intersection crash prediction methods for the Highway Safety Manual.
Ooh, exciting. We have managing work zone traffic impacts.
And then the Federal Aviation Administration's next generation air transportation system. That sounds good.
I remember that. That was I was really bummed that we didn't get that one on the show. Let's see, robots versus toasters, how the power of movement plays tricks on human brains.
Researchers find individualized training is key for autistic adolescents learning to drive. Sounds legit.
Let's see here. Video conferences are more exhausting when participants don't feel group belonging. I can attest to that.
Again, going back to COVID relevant stories. Objective analysis of stress in the classroom. I presume there's stress in the classroom.
There's definitely stress in the classroom.
Yes.
Researchers find new measure to predict stress resilience. So right in line with that stress in the classroom.
And our attention is captured by eye glance.
Certainly is. If somebody looks your way, you're more likely to look at them back. Ingenuity helicopter successfully makes first flight on Mars, and we certainly talked about that on the show.
We have. And human factors and ergonomics and the management of existential threats. A work domain analysis of a COVID-19 return from lockdown restriction system.
Sounds like we're still dealing with that. The effect of arm support and control modes on muscle fatigue, eye fatigue, and posture changes in mobile game use among young adults. That one seems like it's interesting because you're looking at whether or not somebody's arms are supported while they're playing games and what impact that has on fatigue, huh?
Exerted force estimation using a wearable sensor during manual material handling. That sounds quite, and something that's more prevalent as wearable technology moves on.
Yeah. Improving accuracy of gaze control tools. So design recommendations for optimum position, sizes, and spacing of interactive objects.
More and more key as we do a lot more gaze tracking.
Yeah.
Measuring pedestrian traffic fatalities.
And then we have, what exactly is your brain doing when reading code? That one's interesting.
And normally going to sleep. Using rumble strips to prevent crashes.
So many transportation ones, and I think they just stopped posting middle of the year, and that's a bummer. Hurricane evaluation modeling package. I don't know what that is. It must have been good.
Followed by guidelines for cost-effective safety treatment of roadside ditches. I've always wondered about roadside ditches.
Wearing comfort and perceived heaviness of smart glasses.
That's true. LED roadway lighting, impact on driver sleep, health, and alertness.
Interesting. I find surface transportation endlessly interesting. It's a domain that I'd never want to work in. I don't know if that's true. I might want to work in it, but it's so interesting to me, like how modular you can get with some of these tiny little studies on just these littlest things, and it's so great. Speaking of colors and LEDs, the color red influences investor behavior, financial research reveals.
Oh, that's probably true. The psychology behind color I find utterly fascinating, and the way that just getting that right shade and right hue can make such a difference. Attention and working memory, two sides of the same neural coin? ?
All right. And then we have Google's new app auto magically organizes your scanned documents. Why can't it do that with Drive?
If you would stop overwriting your documents.
That's true.
Redefining what a map can be with new information and artificial intelligence.
And that rounds out April. So let's get into May. This is where, over here at Human Factors Cast, we started organizing these by topic. So we're going to go through these. We're going to name the topic, and then we're going to go through the articles here. So the first one up is Aerospace Systems and Aviation. We have an approach to situation awareness, assessment, in-flight simulation, situation awareness, dynamic circulation model.
We're going to jump into the next topic of augmented cognition with high-performance brain-to-text communication via handwriting.
I think we actually may have talked about that one on the show. And then also with OGCOG, we have what would happen if we connected the human brain to a quantum computer.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Just not mine, thank you. Not yet. We're going to jump now to children's issues. So warnings on the dangers of screen time are ill-founded, review finds.
Big surprise there. And then also with children's issues, how a virtual program may help kids get ready for kindergarten.
So moving on from children, we're going to go to cognitive engineering decision making and how does the brain flexibly process complex information.
Also with cognitive engineering and decision making, that'll be for the next 4 of these or so. Study reveals the gateway to conscious awareness.
A diagnostic accuracy of virtual cognitive assessment and testing with a systematic review and meta-analysis.
The next one here, development of a novel hybrid cognitive model validation framework for implementation under COVID-19 restrictions.
And finally in cognitive is our memory is even better than experts thought.
I don't know if that's true. Cybersecurity is the next category we have up here. This is the failures that led to the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. That's right. That happened this year. I can't believe that.
I thought that was like, hey, that's true. We're going to jump into environmental design for the next 5 or 6. So the first one is untangling major societal issues on the road to environmental health.
The adaptive capacity of public space under COVID-19, exploring urban design interventions through a socio-technical systems approach.
You're getting all the big word ones, aren't you?
I am.
The development of a stakeholder identification and analysis method for human factors integration in work system design interventions, change agent infrastructure.
Some of these are so dry, and I'm really apologetic to anyone listening because some of these are just like, what? If we have more information on them, we'll get to them. But some of these we're just reading verbatim. So sorry, guys. Flunking COVID-19 out of schools, a systematic review of non-pharmaceutical interventions to minimize novel COVID in educational settings. All right.
And then why did it take a global pandemic to trigger the working from home revolution? And that's quite massively true. It's a whole lot of, and it's going to be interesting now to see who's going back into work, or as we do more of this, to see just which companies take advantage of it and which companies try just to go back to business as usual.
Yeah. So interesting. Workplace pandemic protocols impact employee behavior outside work. So this one was interesting because how a company treated their protocols impacted whether or not an employee would like wear a mask outdoors, in their personal life. It was really interesting.
So we're going to jump now to healthcare for the next 4. So a novel distance learning ergonomics checklist and risk evaluation methodology, a case of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, risk evaluation. Love it. All right. A heuristic international glimpse at COVID effects on work-home equilibrium and women. So how is it impacting them working from home?
Yeah. I mean, again, that's all looking at the fact that most women tended to pick up all the homeschooling and still have to do all the cooking and things like that because of that, all that type of stuff. So the next one is integration of a human factors ergonomics in healthcare systems, a giant leap, no less, in safety as a key strategy during COVID-19.
You don't say. You don't say. Yeah. All right. COVID has put the world at risk of prolonged grief disorder. This one was an interesting one for sure.
So, yes, certainly that and amongst all the mental health issues, I think that we're still only scratching the surface of understanding.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump from health and to performance and perception. So the story here is, what is the difference between human eyes and computer vision?
That's an interesting perceptual question. Let's get into product design. This is Teeth Tap, recognizing discrete teeth gestures using motion and acoustic sensing on an earpiece.
I'm so intrigued. I'm going to have to go back and look at that one later. Just what?
I think it's a wearable.
Yeah.
You like chatter and it detects what you're saying.
Okay. Still, okay.
Yeah.
Apple previews powerful software updates designed for people with disabilities.
Good. I seem to remember that. All right, let's get into surface transportation and travel, my favorite category. Effects of installing seatbelts on school buses.
I would guess it made them safer. Or maybe not. The quantifying the impact of traffic estimates on safety analysis.
Ooh,
Really?
that's interesting to me. Let's see here. Study drivers who experience shift work, sleep disorder are 3 times more likely to be involved in a vehicle crash. You don't say.
Yeah, I was going to say that you do see some studies, don't you, that just sort of seem to state the obvious.
Right.
But again, sometimes we've said it on a few different episodes where some of this really basic research just has never been done and proven. So yeah, good stuff. What influences traveler decisions?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'll have to go back and revisit that.
List.
Let's see here. Driving habits and patterns of the American public.
And then we go on to preferences of older cyclists.
Yeah. Really granular topics here sometimes.
Yeah.
How effective is personal protective equipment for motorcycles? That's an interesting question because I used to ride, and it can save your life. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes, it's seen some injuries that people have. Yeah, it just put me off. So we're going to jump now into usability and system evaluation. Actually, one of my more favorite topics. Researchers promote usability for everyone, everywhere, and quite right too. We should do.
Hey, you want to know about the usability of loot boxes? Loot boxes in games are enticing, but they don't actually manipulate you into spending.
I've got a bank account that says
I feel like maybe there's some disagreement there.
User-centered development of a worker guidance system for flexible production lines.
All right. Now let's get into virtual environments, my true favorite category here. Sex bots, virtual friends, VR lovers. Tech is changing the way that we interact, and not always for the better.
Sacramento using virtual reality training. Well, you said it was your favorite environment. I thought you just basically made a statement there.
Yeah.
So Sacramento is using virtual reality training to improve policing and confront bias.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting topic that was brought up at Neuroergonomics conference earlier this year as well. So that's interesting that we're seeing it here. Project Starline. Feel like you're there together. So I think this was like a virtual box that like presents a hologram of somebody in front of you that's like a 3D vision of them. All right. And I think that rounds out May. So let's get into June.
So the first category in June is aerospace systems and aviation. The TSA could be better monitor its efforts to reduce infectious disease spread at checkpoints.
Then we have one about drone flying. To fly a drone in the U.S., you now must pass FAA's trust test.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, given the way that drones are going.
Yeah.
Navy, Boeing make aviation history with the MQ-25 becoming the first unmanned aircraft to refuel another aircraft. That's a massive capability jump.
I remember that story. All right. In terms of aging, we have researchers using AI to track cognitive deviation in aging brains.
And let's jump from aging to augmented cognition, where computers predict people's tastes in art. That would be quite simple for me because I don't, according to my daughter, I don't have much taste. So there we go.
Hey, books are art. Television shows are art. How broadly did they define art?
Podcasts are art, surely.
Let's get into children's issues. Just enough information will motivate young children to learn and drive curiosity. So you give them just enough to want to encourage them to learn more.
I think that's a really, really important topic to make sure that kids we teach them how to learn and move away from this rote type learning. Evidence against physically punishing kids is clear, researchers say.
Don't punish your kids physically.
Or do punish your kids. I can't see from the headline.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. That's how clear it is.
I'm assuming it's a don't punish your physically punish your children.
Cognitive engineering and decision making is the next category here. We have cognitive and metabolic workload assessment techniques, a review in automotive manufacturing context.
Oh, the metabolic workload assessment. I think I need to do some reading up on that. That sounds interesting. A novel aggregated multiple criteria decision-making approach to evaluate the physical workload of workers.
All right. Memory helps us evaluate situations on the fly, not just recall the past.
Sorry, I forgot what we were doing. See,
Yeah,
that was a funny joke about memory.
We're reading the stories.
Perry,
stick with me. We're reading the stories.
Algorithm exploitation. Humans are keen to exploit benevolent AI.
Men make more extreme choices and decisions. Fine scientists. Big surprise there.
And overconfidence in news judgment and false news susceptibility. That's fake news, surely.
Yeah, surely. Let's get into this next category here. Cybersecurity. So cyber attacks can shut down critical infrastructure. It's time to make cybersecurity compulsory.
Oh, certainly cybersecurity education more widespread. Jumping from cybersecurity into a related discipline, defense, powering the U.S. Army of the future.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what updates there were. Let's get into environmental design. Artificial sunlight gets a boost from LED windows. So I think this was trying to boost the happiness of somebody with those LED windows, and I think it worked.
Cool. Going then into healthcare for the next 6 or 7. So the impact of COVID-19 on health and safety in the construction sector.
Yes, this next story here, we collected 84 million tweets about the pandemic, and here's what we learned. Be curious to see them update that.
Yeah, I was going to say we did a bit of a study using some of the tweets through the pandemic. It was quite interesting. Too few women get to invent, and that's a problem for women's health. There is actually loads and loads of things that have been developed, and because they've only tested them on largely male cohorts, then there's loads of things that are really good for women. A really good example of that is Viagra. Viagra is actually really beneficial to women, but because it was marketed as a male thing, then they largely missed out on a lot of them
benefits.
Benefits. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
That's the word. Let's see here. When rudeness becomes a matter of life or death. So this is when perceived rudeness to a healthcare professional might backfire on you. Even if you're not being rude, if it's perceived as rude or something like that, then it impacts your health.
Don't they call that marriage? How has the coronavirus pandemic affected mobility patterns? A lot.
A lot is the answer to that one. Innovo's electrical device zaps a COVID-19 vaccine into the body. I forget how this works, but I think
it sounds terrifying, but strangely fun. The rise of neurotechnology calls for a parallel focus on neuro rights.
Yes. Cool. Yes, that sounds like something that we should do.
Yes.
Next up here, this category is human AI robot teaming. This AI robot mimics human expressions to build trust with users. Ooh, both exciting and scary on that front.
Yeah. Let's jump away from that and go into perception and performance category. So the first story here is a new kind of visual illusion uncovers how our brains connect the dots.
All right. So we are in, let's see, detection of mental fatigue state using heart rate vulnerability and eye metrics during simulated flight. Okay.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Tailored optical stimulation for the blind is the next story.
And then in the visual thalamus, neurons are in contact with both eyes, but respond only to one. Ooh, okay.
Interesting. Then the next one is a study shows how taking short breaks may help our brains learn new skills. Sounds legit, and it completely aligns with everything else we know about taking breaks.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break in just a minute after we get through this month. Anyone get super hearing? Anyone get super hearing? I thought it was a question. Anyone get super hearing?
So let's jump from that into the product design category, where the first story is Universal Control lets you use Macs and iPads like they're one machine. Whoa.
Oh, yes, I do remember that. That is now out there. Let's see here. Skin displays will give wearables their independence.
Oh. So jumping from product design to the surface transportation and travel category, one of your favorite categories. The first story here is deploying transportation resilience practices in states, DOTs, Department of Transport.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let's hear better speed valuation for transportation planning. So we talked a little bit about sprawl in one of our episodes earlier this year, which is very interesting. I'm not sure if it was this article or not.
In fact, I think I remember listening to that whilst I was doing some work in some outbuildings in the garden. There you go. A national in-service safety law for automated vehicles. Sounds good.
Ooh, yeah, that's a great idea. And ties in nicely with our automated vehicles from a couple weeks ago. Socio-technical view of electric bike issues in China. Structured review and analysis of electric bike collisions using Rasmussen's risk management framework. Rolls right off the tongue. I'm getting all these long ones.
You have. I've picked the right alternate to do. Next story is prediction of vehicle trajectories at intersections using inverse reinforcement learning.
All right.
Evaluate
Ohio's Department of Transportation's ability to decrease dump truck backing accidents. I can imagine that would be a pretty big issue, but a rear view camera might solve that.
How bad a problem must it be that the fact that they've got to do a complete evaluation on one specific type of truck, and that's phase 2 anyway.
Yeah.
The monetary value and non-monetary, the monetary and non-monetary factors influencing travel choices in an automated, shared, and electrical vehicle future.
Okay, yeah. I think that there's things that impact whether or not you're going to get an EV. Comparing Twitter and Loads data, LODES, for detecting commuter mobility patterns.
Well, that's interesting because there's so many studies now that use Twitter as a sort of a baseline because people are anticipated to be tweeting so much, but actually the Twitter and Facebook and that are not the platforms of choice for those younger generations anymore. So that's got limited validity. The next story is passenger transportation takes off in new directions.
What a great pun. Let's see here. Sick of dangerous city traffic? Remove left turns. Okay, interesting.
That only works in the US.
Yeah,
in the UK you'd have to do the right turn thing, and actually doesn't the algorithms normally count for that. I think that's
most of the time.
You don't it doesn't let you turn across traffic. The next one is US car journeys rebound, but morning rush hour holds off for now. Assuming that's in the back of the pandemic and people starting to go back to work.
Yeah, it's not the case anymore. Hacking and loss of driving skills, major consumer concerns for self-driving cars. Go figure.
Yeah. The next one is pedestrian traffic fatalities by state. Or report, maybe.
Yeah. I want to go back and look at that now that I'm in a different state. Assessment of reflectivity of pavement markings. So I love those things. In fact, I miss them because here in this state, I do not have them, and it feels like I'm driving blind most of the time.
Fair enough. The next story is how road users' behaviors affect pedestrians and cyclist safety. Bicyclist safety, yes.
Yes. And speaking of safety, how about the safety of driver assistance technologies?
Indeed. The next one is the business of mobility. Helsinki leads the way in urban mobility.
I believe it.
Yeah.
All right. And finally, Tesla starts using cabin cameras to monitor drivers using autopilot.
Oh.
Yeah, that's something that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, we talked about that a few episodes ago as well.
Yeah.
So jumping categories now into usability and system evaluation. Dark patterns that mislead consumers are all over the internet.
Go figure. That's weird.
Didn't see that one coming.
All right. And we'll round out May with some virtual environments here. Augmented reality can improve the lives of older adults. So why are apps designed mainly for youngsters? It's a good question.
And the final one in this category and of this month is navigating a virtual world helped older adults memory.
All right. We got through about half the year, just about. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back after this.